Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out with this.
From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk.
Issue 1.
Well, issue 1 is John McLaughlin, who died recently at the age of 89. John McLaughlin was the creator and moderator of the McLaughlin Group, probably the most popular political talk show in television history. A lot of people don't know John McLaughlin started out as a Jesuit priest. In 1970, he was a big anti-war guy and wanted to run for Congress, but the church wouldn't let him. He ran anyway. From Rhode Island, he got killed by John Pastore, and he gradually slipped away from the church, although not from his Jesuit teachings. He became an advisor to Richard Nixon, especially in the darkest days of Watergate, where he became friends with Nixon's speechwriter Pat Buchanan, who became one of the most prominent members of the McLaughlin Group. And ultimately, he became famous for the talk show he developed and for the phrases he used on the show, like metaphysical certitude and his metaphors.
On a doomsday scale of 0 to 10, 0 meaning zero doom, 10 meaning absolute metaphysical doom, a total wipeout, annihilation, nothing remaining. How much doom does Hillary face? A Geiger counter probability scale from 0.001 to 1,000 milliroentgens per hour, with 0.001 meaning little more than natural background radiation, and 1,000 meaning a nuclear detonation. What is the likelihood we'll wake up one morning to headlines that Iran has tested a nuclear bomb?
A lot of people criticized him because sometimes the talk show devolved into people just yelling at each other, like this.
It's a pejorative term.
Even Democrats don't use it. They use progressive.
All you descendants.
Liberal all you want. You
They tried to kill Obama that way, and Obama has never run as a liberal. Obama's never run as a liberal. He's not about to run as a liberal. He runs as a come-together candidate who works with Republicans.
Death comes in the night on cat's paws, Pat. You never know.
Little cat's feet, that's the fog, John, that comes in on little cat's feet.
I changed it to cat. Will the real Obama please stand up? Is that what you're saying? You got 100 senators, right? He's number one in liberalism. You know that.
They're going to
you can take it or leave it.
Don't put it on ads. Don't put it on bumper stickers, but it means nothing.
John, you can tell by the attitude you're
Well, in truth, there was a lot of that, but I watched the show every week because John McLaughlin always had a well-prepared and informative introduction to each topic. And if you listened, you learned a lot just from that.
Issue 1, Summit Solstice. When George Bush and Mikhail Gorbachev sat down at their summit this week, they both realized that they are living through an historic turning point.
Mr. President, I firmly believe, as you have said, that there is no turning back from the path you have chosen.
We have no other way to proceed, and there is no turning back.
The Cold War is over. Communism is on its last legs. The two superpowers are no longer exclusively predominant. For the first time since the end of World War II, the focus of the United States foreign policy is not on deterrence or containment of the Soviets. So where do we go from here? The United States needs a new foreign policy, one not shaped and constituted by superpower confrontation, but a normal foreign policy, if you will. What will it be? Neo-isolationism or an updated Wilsonian internationalism? Should America pull back its troops and cut back its foreign aid? Or should it launch a democratic crusade to make democracy actual worldwide, where we have already made it possible, and thus keep American troops in place to fend off potential aggressors of democracy, as, for example, in Japan, so as not to destabilize Asia, where future and fledgling democracies may sprout? Should we pump more than the $20 billion in foreign aid currently budgeted for new and aspiring democracies? What course should our foreign policy take in the post-communist, post-Cold War, post-ideological era?
Of course, John McLaughlin was immortalized by Dana Carvey on Saturday Night Live in their parody of the McLaughlin Report.
Issue number 5. What number am I thinking of? Pat Buchanan.
Geez, 82.
Wrong. Eleanor Flint.
Is it between 1 and
Don't
100?
get the issue.
40.
Wrong. More tongue time.
212.
Wrong. Jaccarino.
Sure.
Wrong. The correct answer is 134.
So you didn't know your parents very well?
Wrong.
Wrong?
Wrong.
Right?
Wrong.
And from Dana Carvey, a little sign-off.
Issue number 3, life after death. Some pundits say it doesn't exist. Theologians disagree. Is there an afterlife? Jachamon?
I really don't know.
Morton!
Well, it's not my field.
Buchanan!
I'd like to believe, but it's
Wrong! There is life after death. The soul does not ascend to heaven, but rather rests in a limbo state that varies depending on the karma of the spirit.
Finally, John McLaughlin's unforgettable sign-off.
Bye-bye.
We're going to move on now to Arthur Hiller, the television and movie director who died recently at the age of 92. I'm not sure what to tell you about Arthur Hiller. There's good news and bad news there. Arthur Hiller was a nice Jewish boy from Canada, and he cut his teeth like a lot of directors on television. He did some pretty good episodes of Alfred Hitchcock, some pretty good episodes of Route 66, and he did a couple of episodes of Mom, Dick, and He's Fenster, which we talked about when we did the Marty Ingalls podcast. And then he moved to movies. Now, Arthur Hiller did some pretty good movies. In the 60s, he teamed with Patty Chayefsky, and they did the Americanization of Emily with James Garner and Julie Andrews, which was great. And he and Patty Chayefsky teamed up again to do The Hospital with George C. Scott, which was great. It was Arthur Hiller who teamed Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor together for the first time in Silver Streak, which wasn't the greatest movie ever made, but Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor had great chemistry together, and Patrick McGoohan was wonderful in that movie. And hey, Arthur Hiller did the original In-Laws with Alan Arkin and Peter Falk, and that is a classic. If that's not his best movie, then The Man in the Glass Booth about Eichmann is his best movie. That, by the way, was written by Robert Shaw, Quint in Jaws, who was an incredibly talented guy. So you got that on the positive Arthur Hiller side. Now on the negative Arthur Hiller side, you got some real stinkers. First of all, you got the Out-of-Towners with Jack Lemmon and Sandy Dennis, and they just wind their way through that movie. What a dreadful movie that is. Even worse was his biopic of Babe Ruth, starring John Goodman. How do you take a great actor like John Goodman and a subject like Babe Ruth and make a terrible movie out of it? But Arthur Hiller is best known for his Academy Award nominated movie, the movie that saved Paramount Studio in 1970, and it grossed over $100 million. This is the movie that made Arthur Hiller's career. It's Love Story.
When we made Love Story, I thought, and we all thought, except for the producer, we thought we're making a nice little movie. We had no idea what it was going to be. You know, the screenplay came before the book. A lot of people think it's the other way. No, he wrote the book from the screenplay. And I did it for a quarter of my salary. My agent was very upset. It just felt like the right picture at the right time, and it was.
Sheesh. Ali MacGraw and Ryan O'Neal in the story by Eric Siegel from Harvard. Al Gore claims it's about him. Eric Siegel, by the way, says that's wrong. It's hard to believe Al Gore would make up anything like that. In fact, the sensitive athlete in the movie might have been modeled on Al Gore's roommate at Harvard, Tommy Lee Jones, who got a bit part in the movie, one of his first parts. It's hard for me to talk about this movie. It's such a direct, but if you want to hear the Love Story theme, go to the Andy Williams podcast. He does a nice job with it. Anyway, it made Arthur Hiller's career. He got nominated for the Academy Award. The movie's been on the Great 100 list of romantic movies of all time. A lot of people like Roger Ebert loved it, and Arthur Hiller went on to get the Jean Herschel Humanitarian Award, which I guess he deserved for something. If nothing else, he was married to his wife from Canada for 68 years. Let's give him credit for that instead of Love Story. We're going to move on now to Fyvush Finkel, who died recently at the age of 93, one of the last links to the great Yiddish theater of 2nd Avenue, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. Fyvush Finkel was a nice Jewish boy born in Brownsville in Brooklyn, right around the corner from my father. In fact, he performed in the Hopkinson Theater, which was on the same block that my father lived, and he was sort of a poor man's Zero Mostel. And the Yiddish theater was a mainstay of American theater from the turn of the century to the 1960s, and it produced some of the biggest stars in Hollywood, including John Garfield, Natalie Pecan, Herschel Bernardi, and perhaps the greatest of all, Paul Muni, a.k.a. Muni Weisenfreude. Here, Fyvush Finkel talks about his beginnings.
How do you get into the Yiddish theater?
Well, it was a thing that happened. We lived that time in Brownsville. I mean, Dumont Avenue, my father had his store of dry goods where we lived at the back of the store. He used to get the Forbits, the Jewish newspaper, every day. And he read an article in there that they're looking in the Yiddish theater, which was 4 blocks away from where we lived, called the Hopkinson Theater. They're looking for a boy of 9 or 10 years old that knows the song, "Oh Promise Me," for a wedding sequence that they have on the stage. And I knew the song. I made $8 a week. I was the prince of the family.
He became a great singer, dancer, and joke teller. When his voice changed, he was out of work for a while, and then the union wouldn't let him work for a while. But he gravitated to Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and ultimately back in New York, and in the 40s he went to the Yiddish theater and also played vaudeville. Perhaps his most famous song was I Am a Boarder by My Wife.
When I played Yiddish vaudeville, the audience would have been lost.
Now I know what killed vaudeville. You were in vaudeville?
I killed it. I made parking lots out of every Yiddish theater on 2nd Avenue.
Hello. My wife and I just parted. I'm back where I started, like a bachelor when I was a kid. But when I started moving, my wife said disapproving, stay right here, it's better, so I did. Why go and look for shelter, confused and helter-skelter, just to be alone and save a cent? Do a favor, stay right here. It'll work out, have no fear. Like a stranger, I pay her my rent. Oh, I am a boarder by my wife. What an improvement in my life. No more problems, never harried. I am happily unmarried. I am a boarder by my wife.
As I said, he also told jokes, although he was more of a storyteller. Here's one of the stories he used to tell, and it's a true story about how he married his wife.
I told him, I'd like to marry your daughter. He says, never. I will not allow my daughter to marry an actor. I says, what are you talking about? You're talking to Fyvush Finkel. He says, I don't care who you are. My daughter will not marry an actor. I will not permit it. I said, look, I'm appearing at the National Theater. Please come down. Maybe after you see what I do on that stage, you might think differently. He says, I'll be there. He came and he sat down just like my friend sitting over here. And when I saw him, I gave him everything I had. And right after the show, he came with a big smile to me. Oh, Fyvush, congratulations. You can marry my daughter. You're no actor.
Well, as the Jews moved out of the neighborhoods and Yiddish started dying, the Yiddish theater was dying too, but he got a big break in 1966 when he was asked to play in Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. He actually took a pay cut, and later in life he was on television on Boston Legal and on Picket Fences. But his most memorable role was in the touring company in Fiddler, where his Tevye was Theo Bickel, whose podcast we've also done, and listened to them recreate their roles late in life.
My good and dear and old friend, Fyvush Finkel, and we'll do something together.
I'd be delighted.
We've done for years.
Let me go to the side. I always remember when we did Fiddler together, I was your butcher. And you were my Tevye.
That's right.
It was the best years of my career.
Yeah, we are ready.
I'm the butcher, you're Tevye, and I want to marry your daughter. To life,
L'chaim, L'chaim, to life. Here's to the father I tried to be.
Here's to my bride to be.
Bring L'chaim, to life, L'chaim, L'chaim, to life. Life has a way of confusing us,
blessing and bruising us.
Bring L'chaim to life, L'chaim, cycle, my daughter, my wife.
Life has a way of confusing us,
messing and losing us. Bring L'chaim to life. L'chaim, everybody.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Siteps, and we're going to close with a brief mention of Sulie Harand Friedman, who died recently at the age of 97. Sulie Harand was a nice Jewish girl from Chicago who, along with her family, in 1955 founded the Harand Camp of Theater Arts in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, a magical summer place where kids got to be stars for a night and gain confidence and friendships for a lifetime. It was a show business camp. She specialized in teaching singing. Her sister specialized in teaching acting. Camp is still going today as part of Carthage College in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and kids from Chicago and the North Shore remember it fondly because for a time everyone would get to be a star. Sulie Harand Friedman was actually a great performer in her own right. She was offered a role on Broadway by Frank Lesser in Guys and Dolls, but she opted to stay with her family in the Midwest and found the Harand Camp. As a final tribute to Sulie Harand Friedman, I thought we'd play a song from Guys and Dolls, my favorite, done by Dino and Frank.
When you spot a John waiting out in the rain, chances are he's insane, as only a John can be for his Jane. When you meet a gent paying all kinds of rent for a flat that could flatten the Taj Mahal, call it sad, call it funny, but it's better than even money. That guy is only doing it for some dollars.